I'm Alex Howard.
And I'm Amanda Silver. And this is Dirty Laundry. So how was your first couple weeks back
You know what?
to
I know
school?
it's been a couple weeks and it's gone by pretty quick.
Yeah.
My son was at a new school, so
That's a big change.
there was some anxiety leading up to
Yeah, I
it.
can imagine.
Day one was tough for him. And of course, I always make them pose for their photo and they know that's like a non-negotiable in my book, but they did it and they smiled. And then he tearfully went off to school. And we have a rule in our house. I'm not allowed to bring him to things where he's going to be anxious and nervous and emotional because I make him too emotional. Like I push him over. What are you trying to say? So Jonathan takes him to school and I don't.
You know what? I think I really like that.
That's about knowing.
You know your kids.
Yeah.
It's not about ego or pride or whatever. You're just like, you know what? I'm not the best person for them in this spot right now. You know, mom or dad or whomever is better.
Yeah.
So like that's what they need.
Exactly.
It's really following your kids' needs. Right? Because obviously
Putting them
you'd love
first.
to be the
I
first day
would
of
have loved
school.
to.
But you're like, you know what? This is for dad today.
Yeah.
So,
like I wanted to meet the other parents. I wanted to,
and embarrass him a little
and
bit.
mortify him, obviously.
It's
That's
so
the
mortifying. I think
job.
that's part of it too.
Yeah. But I will say just one really quick anecdote because he's so freaking cute. So we were sitting on just our front deck having a glass of wine. It was like 4:00 on a Friday. Yes, I was having a happy hour on a Friday. But so Jonathan and I are sitting there and we can see him walking because he either bikes or he takes the bus and it was kind of a rainy day. So he's walking back and we can just see his smile. And then he comes closer and I'm like, how was school, bud? And he goes, thank you so much for making me switch. Thank you for sending me there.
Oh my gosh.
And I just thought, again, speaking to like their needs, like I knew that he needed a change.
What he needed.
But he was terrified. And it was a really hard summer of like managing the anxiety leading up to this huge change. 8 years at one school. Not to mention COVID, where everyone became like such, homebodies.
Yeah.
But 8 years, the same place. And so this was a big deal. So he's doing really well.
And what an amazing accomplishment for him to have that realization that like, yes, it was really hard for me and I didn't know, but like I put my faith in my parents.
Mm-hmm.
They made the decision. I followed them and they were right. And like, I think that's really nice too.
Definitely a feather in my cap.
That he can he can trust mom and dad to like, make good decisions for him.
Yes.
Right?
What about you? How was yours?
It was great.
Good.
I felt like, to me, I find the first couple weeks, to me, the hardest thing is getting back into like the routine.
Routine's impossible.
I find that's tough.
Yeah, we were very lackadaisical with bedtimes.
Summer,
and,
you know what? It's light till 9:00, and so like my kids are like night owls as it is. So I found that's always, difficult is getting them to bed earlier and waking them up earlier. But they're really happy. They love their classes. They love their friends. This is the school that they've like very comfortable at.
Right.
So I felt like it was so easy.
Easy breeze.
It was easy. Yeah.
I mean, that's the dream, right? Transitions are hard. If it's easy and it's smooth, don't question it.
They
just
were
go with
literally thrilled. The first day of school, they both ran it. They're like, bye, mom. And I was like, bye.
Again,
and I'm just,
we have such wants and needs.
Bye.
And we can't.
No, they found their friends. They got to school. A lot of chaotic because there's like so many parents and so many kids and like no one knows where to go. Mm-hmm. They found their friends and they were like, they knew what door to go in and they were just like, bye, mom. And I'm like, you know what? That to me is success.
Yeah.
When
that's a job well done on you.
Yeah. When they can walk away and not feel like, that separation anxiety.
And it's so funny because as parents, that's literally our only job is to prepare them to not need us.
To not need us.
But then it's like, but hello, we need them.
But we need them.
But I'm not ready for all of this. On today's episode, we have Laurie Gerber. Laurie is a relationship coach with over 20 years of experience. And after her own near-divorce experience, has helped women and couples either find their way back together or enter the dating world. So, Laurie, how did you find yourself in this line of work? Not every young girl dreams of one day being a relationship coach and dating expert.
I think I really did dream of it, actually, as a young girl.
Did you?
I think I literally did dream of it, actually, when I was about 15. I remember a moment and I have never told this story, I don't think, on any other podcast.
It's dirty laundry first.
Yes. Right out of the gate, ladies.
Damn.
I'm sitting in an airplane. I remember it was one of my first times probably ever flying. And I remember having this fantasy. And I really do think this is where all good things are born, is when you're kind of like looking out a window and thinking and just musing. And I thought, wouldn't it be amazing to take families into the woods and make them sort their shit out with each other?
God, I love
Wouldn't that be like such a fun thing to do with my life? And then I never thought about it again.
Interesting.
And then lo and behold, 20 years later, I was doing that, but in beautiful retreat settings, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a much better upgrade. It was an upgrade, a much better scenario. It turns out I wasn't that into camping, but the whole vibe of I want to help families, I want to help people, I want to help people sort their shit out.
Yeah.
It was in me very young. And I used to spend hours on the phone, talking to my friends, thinking, how am I ever going to monetize this?
Interesting.
How am I ever going to make a career out of it? And lo and behold,
here you are.
There's a huge need for the kind of information that I learned, used on myself, and now get to teach one-on-one and in groups and on TV and on the radio and all that good stuff.
And then you found yourself in a relationship and you had some hiccups because you've been quite, let's say, vocal about that. So I don't feel like I'm putting you on the spot too much, but
oh my God, I air all my dirty laundry.
Good.
I don't know if you saw my TEDx talk, but in my TEDx talk, I literally told every lie I've ever told out loud to the audience.
I love it.
Parents, right? Like I am the most open book I think you'll find.
Love it.
So I actually hired my first coach 20 years ago, Lauren Handel-Zander, who created the Handel method, which is the method that I teach. I hired her to help me in my career. But unbeknownst to me, she did not take a one area approach. She believes that all areas are interrelated, which seems obvious to me now. But at the time, I was like, I just want to, double my business.
Right.
And so she took one look at, first of all, the first homework was I had to talk about all the areas of my life. And she took one look at my relationship to my husband. And she was like, oh, no. like rewind, lady. You can't even think straight about your career. Let's save your marriage unless you're planning to get a divorce, unless you're planning to, unless you're okay with this disintegrating, you are actually in an emergency situation. And I did not.
You had no idea. You had no idea you were in an emergency situation.
No, I had an idea.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. I had an idea, but it was like many of us deeply buried and well denied.
What does that emergency situation look like for someone who doesn't know your story, right? Who doesn't know, what you've been through? I know you've shared on other platforms.
Watched your TED Talk.
Yeah.
There are two things. One was we had become roommates. So according to my brilliant theory, you don't have to keep having sex with your partner. And my coach, Lauren, pointed out to me, that's roommates. That's not marriage. Don't call it marriage if it's roommates. Yeah. Is he aware that you're calling it roommates? And that was a huge wake up call for me because I was looking at my parents and I saw them, what's the word? Subsisting, I want to say, but it's really, I saw them
just coexisting,
surviving their marriage with no sex. Yeah. So that was my model. She was not having that, right? She's like, that is a sellout. Don't do that. That was number one. And number two, I had gotten into a fight with my husband where he said, I think if you're going to keep acting like this, I will want a divorce. Right. And when he said, I call that my near divorce experience. And when he said divorce, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I think I'm hearing something that I have not heard before. So those two things coupled together to have me go, there's something I have. And I had already been doing so much personal growth work, to be clear. I had already lived in an ashram, been to many therapists, done all these courses, done gobs of retreats, books, gurus. I was into personal growth from age 11 when my mother took me to Tai Chi class at the Y.
Amazing.
Right. So I was into it. I just had given up in that area. Right. I had just said, like, this is the best I'm going to do. So, oh, well, we'll make it work. I wasn't thinking we were going to get divorced and I wasn't thinking we were going to get better until she was like, hi, you could do something about this.
So you're pairing him saying, hey, I can't live like this anymore. I might have to, get a divorce. Her calling you out, saying this is an emergency situation. And then the light bulb goes off and then you're like, we got to make a change. And then what does that look like?
So, and this is the process I do with couples too. There are 3 aspects to the healing. One is philosophical, one is emotional, and one is physical. So philosophically, we had to realign ourselves, right? I think a lot of couples get together, they never speak about philosophy. Do we think the work should be equal in the household? Do we think one parent should raise the children and the other shouldn't? Do we think we should bring in equal amounts of money? Do we think we should do public school or private school? Like these are all philosophical questions that I think a lot of people skip. And my husband and I had a lot of them, but we certainly never talked about, hey, do you think we should keep having sex even when we have young children at home? We never talked about that philosophically. For example, right? So there was a philosophical piece where, again, my coach was coaching me on new beliefs, right? Like the belief that a healthy sex life keeps a marriage great. The belief that a marriage is only great if it has a healthy sex life. The belief that you need to listen better to get a better result. You know, like she filled my head with many different philosophical beliefs that it turned out my husband agreed with. So that then became a new foundation for the other 2 pieces. So then emotionally, this was probably the most impactful part, is we went through everything we were both grumbling about, one by one by one. And that's what I do with couples. Like just one by one by one, we go through it, not to solve the problem yet, just to get into each other's worlds.
Right.
Just to understand.
And to
right.
promote
And
that listening.
hold each other's parts.
Yeah.
Really amazing.
And then the physical part was revolutionary. And the physical part turned out to be extremely simple because 2 little things made all the difference in the whole wide world. Do you want to guess what those 2 little things were?
So excited.
Do you already know?
No,
I'm afraid to guess. I don't know. I only like to guess if I know the answer.
So the first one was we started having sex again regularly.
Oh, shocking. Okay.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Right? Number 1. And number 2, I stopped interrupting him when he talks. He said that when I interrupt him, it feels like a physical assault.
Wow.
And that he cannot get his train of thought back because, and this is not just men, but it's also my man's particular, brain.
Yeah.
And I never knew that.
Yeah.
And I was with him for 10 years when we had this conversation. This was not, I just met him.
Right.
I never knew that was his experience. And I never had compassion. I was never even curious that was his experience until I had a coach that said, why don't you find out what his experience is?
Interesting.
And then when I found out, I was like, oh, I could actually fix this.
Yeah. That's an easy change. Totally. Wow.
It's to be able to be conscious of that and fix it and to be working on that is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
So clearly you made the choice to stay in your marriage, to work on it, to solve these problems, to gain back your intimacy. And here you are still married. Well, there you go.
Summary.
Good.
Yeah. And now you're sort of helping others in their relationships and in new relationships after divorce, right? And exploring that. So why don't you tell us more about that? I'm very curious.
Yeah. So I transitioned. I really became the love and dating expert pretty early on because it was such a passion of mine personally. But then over my 20-year career in coaching, I became the resident love expert at Match.com and Zoosk and JDate. And I started to really have a niche coaching women who were dating instead of just people who are in relationships. Because that just naturally became an interest and a talent and something I got my 10,000 hours of experience doing. And so then as I have grown older, I have more and more sort of catered to that particular niche because the more expert you get in a particular niche, the more you can provide for that particular niche. So I just kind of followed my heart and my nose that way. And I also think it's hard to find a dating coach or a relationship coach that has the combination of so much personal experience and so much, in the field experience with actual people.
Yeah.
And so that's what I bring to it. And then I just keep learning more. Like every day I hear new stories every single day, just like you do probably podcasting. You learn more every day.
Yeah.
So I just keep learning more every day. And I feel like it's my job, spiritually speaking, to consolidate everything I'm learning and then put it back out in a consumable format so that people don't have to struggle as much.
Yeah.
And I think dating in the modern world is probably one of the hardest possible things you can do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I'm living proof.
So
Hands
I really
up.
want to make that
For those of you
easier.
listening, my hand is up. But yes,
Yes.
and so you focus more on a different demographic, though. Your focus is more on is it women? Is it women after a certain age? Tell us about who your typical client is.
My client is a successful, brilliant, wonderful woman who really gave herself to her family and probably her career too, and is now going through menopause or just went through menopause, launched their kids, and is finally, either needs a divorce, is in a divorce situation, just got a divorce, or has been divorced for a little while and is going, I'm okay alone.
Yeah.
This could be okay. But 30 more years of alone.
Yeah.
I think I would like a suitable companion. That sounds better. They're not exactly urgent.
Yeah.
They're really not, unlike the 38-year-old.
Yeah. It's a want versus a need.
Yeah, you can take your time. You can be choosy.
They're kind of like, sell me on it.
Yeah.
It has to really work for them. Yeah. Right.
Convince me that it's worth it. Yeah. So even though, we're all beautiful, unique snowflakes, you must see some real common through lines with all of your clients. Even if we're just looking at this demographic, you've really given us a clear example of who you like to work with. What are these common pitfalls? What are some misconceptions? What are they doing right, wrong, and everything in between?
There are a lot of different things. Hold on. Now,
let's start with one.
She's taking notes.
And mistakes. Okay.
I am working on getting more succinct with my question asking, but so far failing at that.
They're all good questions, and I don't think you understand how much I have to say on the topic.
So it's usually me that asks the loaded question, right?
All right, give it to us, Laurie. Give us the good.
Nachos.
Yeah. The nacho question.
Okay. I think the biggest pitfall people make is that they approach dating with a learn by doing / trial and error mentality.
Okay.
And that is not the right approach to dating in the modern era. I think that works great for learning a new language, learning an instrument, learning a new sport, even, like practice. You're just going to keep getting better. Now, the difference with dating in the modern era is, first of all, if you go in with a bad attitude, you're going to prove all your bad theories true, and you're going to become demoralized almost immediately. And second of all, because dating is emotional, it is going to require you to take rejection, give rejection, like the most vulnerable, hard things, that if you don't go in with the right mindset, strategy, and tactics, you're going to want to give up very quickly.
Right.
So I think the biggest pitfall is that people go in unprepared and they go in with a trial and error. Like, let me just try this.
Right.
Let's see what happens. And unfortunately, seeing what happens is you see a lot of shit. You see it, and you get a lot of bad stats that cross your, and your friends complain to you about it and you complain to them about it. And now you're in a really crappy headspace for getting the result you want.
So how do you prepare yourself then? How do you go in with the right mindset? You've come out of maybe a not so great divorce. You've been you were married for 25 years, whatever.
Sworn off love and relationships.
You've had it, yeah. And now you are entertaining the idea of, partnering up again. But how do you prepare them?
I'm going to give you my top 4 answers.
I love a list.
Love a list.
But the truth is, when I work with women, I have a checklist. I call it the sweep checklist. We're like, let's find out what's, like, if you went to the doctor and you're like, I have these symptoms, the doctor would go, okay, let's run these tests.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's 34 things I've come up with that are the top 34 obstacles that people face. Okay. Most people don't have all 34. Okay. So breathe. Okay. But one of the issues is that people don't believe in love, right? They're addled.
They're jaded.
They're in a bunch of very negative theories and beliefs based on these 4 things that are what I do at the very beginning to prepare you. there's all kinds of tactical preparation too, which I'm not addressing in this answer.
Okay.
But in terms of emotional and mindset preparation, I would suggest 4 things. The first thing is a deep reckoning with your family history in love. Because just like you have their predisposition to certain medical conditions or their hair color, you also have their issues in love. So if you don't understand that, you're not poised to upgrade it.
So looking back at your family of origin, like how your parents role modeled relationships.
And their parents. Go back even
generation.
Love a good generational.
Because even though you'll see historical context differences, you'll see some themes. The second thing is your personal history, right? So whether you've only ever been with one person for the last 20 years or you've had 25 partners, there are patterns there that are showing you something, like tea leaves. Right? So you got to map that all out. I have an exercise for that where you can start to get crystal clear on how you sell out so that you don't do that again.
Yeah.
Number 2. Number 3, if you are not over someone, then the position of soulmate is taken.
Right.
And your soulmate, energetically, spiritually speaking, will not be coming into that position because that position is filled.
I like that. Right? I like that.
So there are 2 aspects of this. There's detoxing a bad relationship. So getting through your marriage, making sure you have a great story to tell about it or whatever went wrong, right? So there's detoxing those bad relationships. There's also detoxing the one that got away. That is one of the biggest misconceptions I hear is the one got away. And I say, if that was your one, he wouldn't have gone away. So you need to detox both the positive proxies and the negative proxies that are taking up the space of your soulmate. I think that's clear. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, it could also be a dead brother. I see that too. Right.
Or
like
father?
It's not always.
Are we getting into
it's not always a deceased spouse or.
Is that also a time thing? Like I think that a lot of my clients, I can see the change in them from the hurt and the rawness of the divorce when it happened, like the separation, and they're still holding on to those old memories. And then a year later, they're in a totally different headspace, and and an emotional space too. So I feel like it's like it leaves them. Yeah.
Time heals all wounds, and coaching makes it go faster.
Right. Speeds it up.
Speeds it up. So, and then the 4th thing is your relationship with yourself. And because the cliche is true, if you don't love yourself, how are you going to even know what that looks like from another, much less receive it, much less appreciate it?
Totally.
It really is a reflection of your relationship to yourself. So if you're not proud of how you're eating, exercising, sleeping, hydrating, how you're doing your vices, how you're managing your money, how you're in your family, how you're with your kids, if any of that is off, you will hold it against yourself. And then you will not manifest in or attract in that which you desire.
Yeah, you'll self-sabotage because you're not healed from all of the other. Yeah, love it.
Yes. I love how life does nudge you in the direction of your dreams with its pain. Yeah. So it does. And so those are the 4 top things I recommend for people in the very beginning of preparing.
Can we talk about sex?
Talk about sex.
I mean, you introduced it early on, so I just feel like let's circle back because say you have been with one partner for decades. It's hard enough to just enter the dating world, whether that is apps or, picking up at a bar. Like, I don't even know where people date anymore. So this is a lot. But you're doing that already. You're already so far out of your comfort zone. You're already taking on a lot. And now you have to get physical. And that's a lot, I would imagine.
It really is.
So is part of your work coaching and supporting and helping them get to a point of confidence or, self-assuredness or what have you? Yes, you're nodding. Perfect. Yeah, okay, answer. Sure. I'll stop.
So here's what I would say. There's a real division among women. There's the women who can get their groove back and go out and fling. Yeah. And then there's the group of women who actually just can't do that. Like they try it once or twice and it's like, I'm getting my heart broken. I'm getting hurt. I don't like this. I don't want a disease.
Fair.
Like, so there's really 2 camps of women. Frankly, I think it's better if you're in the camp that can go out and fling a little bit because you need to learn, right? You need to learn. You need to not put pressure on yourself. You need to know what you can do. You need to know what's going on.
Yes.
It's really healthy to go out and be liberated and try different kinds of sex
in a safe way.
In a safe way,
right?
Because we're not even talking about safety. We're just talking about sex.
Yeah. We're just talking about the fun, but it is intimidating, right? There's all these new styles, all these new positions, and if you've been
are they new?
I don't know. Clearly, I've been married for too long.
I feel like they've always been there. They're just maybe more on social.
Yeah. Have you heard of the Kama Sutra?
I'm like pretty sure that's a pretty age old. Like
touche.
They're not new. We're not finding new ways to bend. Okay.
But there is a lot more interest in polyamory. I mean,
that's different. That is different.
Yeah.
I mean, at least over the last 100 years. I'm not going back, to other cultures and other times.
I don't know, but
because there's always been interest in polyamory. But there's a lot more acceptance of ethical non-monogamy. Right. So that's different. But that's not about sex. That's about how you're conducting your relationship. Yeah. So let me just say one more thing about sex before we talk about safety or non-monogamy. Either one, we can go in either direction. But in terms of sex, if you're in the camp of flinging, you still need to consult what your head, your heart, and your hoo-ha needs. So you still need to vet people extremely precisely to make sure they would be a good friends with benefits. And I'm so happy for the women who have one waiting in the wings for them. Yeah. They're like, oh, that friend from high school, or like, that's great if you have someone waiting in the wings for you to get your groove back. If not, you're going to have to shop for one. Right. And I highly recommend that. I think that's a really healthy, smart thing to do. For those of you who are going, I'm not having sex again until I'm monogamous with someone I think could really be the person. Cool. Also works great. And you're going to need to learn all the tools that I teach for healthy, honest communication, because until you're ready to talk about STDs, go get tested together, talk about what you like, what you don't like, talk about what your fears are. You're not ready to have sex again. Yeah. So that's my safety net around you until you can talk about it, until he can talk about it. And by the way, if you're dating an age mate, if you're not dating someone way younger than you, likely they're having some of the same concerns and considerations. And a lot of my 50 plus women are kind of like, I don't remember how to do this, or I don't know what to do, or how does it work now? But the men are worried they're not going to keep it up. Right. So everyone's got their issues.
Their insecurities and their
in 5-10 years of your age range. Yeah. So don't fool yourself into thinking you're some unique issue. Yeah. You have some unique issue.
So you're really pushing for those healthy, difficult conversations.
I really am.
Yeah. I think that's key. And quite frankly, at any age with any partner, we need to be having those conversations. And
whether it's a friends with benefits or it's your husband of 20 years.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. And we often laugh at how it's easier just to have sex than to actually talk about sex, which is so still fascinating. And I certainly fall into that category of guilty as charged.
I think we should talk about rejection.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I think a lot of people, men, women, are afraid to go out into the dating, place.
Yeah, they're divorced. They just had the biggest
rejection of their life.
Why in the world would they want to go through that again?
Either they've given the rejection or they've received the rejection, or it's a combination of both. And now they felt this bomb that's gone off in their life, and now they're going to go out and put themselves out there again to be rejected, because dating is about, he rejects me, I reject him. Is it going to work? Is it not? It's all about that dance. So how do you prepare them for that?
The specter of rejection is one of the main obstacles that stops people from getting back into the dating scene, and why I feel so emphatic about doing your preparation and your readiness. Because in that self-growth work, in that inner work, you will remake yourself into a new person. Yeah. And that new person will have a totally, I call it the click, right? There will be something that clicks into place in that work that has you not feel like the same person you were. Right. And not feeling like the same person you were gives you a new round of belief and faith that you can find something that you didn't have before. So that preparation that I already mentioned is key to resolving the fear of rejection for yourself. Now, will you ever fully resolve it? Probably not. And that's why I give my clients so many tools to help you avoid a rejection that will hurt and also build a callus like you would if you were playing the guitar.
Like a
build
thicker
a callus
skin.
so that the work doesn't hurt as much. So both of those are important. So certain safeguards I use are, for example, we create a 3H chart. The head, the heart, and the hoo-ha all say what they want, and then you date according to that chart. So you're not going for the guy you're just attracted to but not compatible with. You're not going for the guy that you think looks amazing on paper but you don't trust him, or the guy that you deeply trust but you're not turned on by. Right? Like,
how do you find all three in one?
Yeah. What is this magical person?
It exists. It exists. Right. But you have to be looking for it. Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you have to be looking for a job, or no one's bringing it to your lap.
And be okay with that rejection. And I think a lot of it is also like you're building up those walls. It's not about building up walls that you can't penetrate, but just building up walls that are thick enough to protect your heart while you're going through this process. So you don't internalize every, date that doesn't work out or person that doesn't call you back or whatever. You can just do it more in a healthier way. Can't speak healthier way.
I want to recast rejection also. I don't talk about it as rejection. I talk about it as it's not a match.
Right.
Compatibility.
Which is a bit in context, because I give my clients, it's called the 3-date strategy. I give them 3 dates to determine if someone is a 3H match, 8 or above in head, heart, and hoo-ha. If it is not 8 or above, and vice versa, it's not a match. So you're not rejecting someone personally. You're just going, oh, my thing is I need to live in New York, or oh, my thing is I wanted kids, or oh, my thing is I'm allergic to cats, or my thing is I'm a Democrat, or my thing is I'm, my thing is I really like deep talks, or my thing is, I said never again with an alcoholic.
Right.
Whatever your thing is.
So many.
Yes.
That's a deal breaker for you. Yeah. You're going to learn it by the 3rd date before you fall in love, before you get attached. And you're going to say, I'm so sorry. I don't think this is a romantic match. It's been wonderful getting to meet you. You're lovely. And in those first 3 dates, you're deeply curious. Do I meet his criteria? Does he meet mine? And you're studying it to see if it's a match, not to see if you're going to reject someone or be rejected. Just, it's either a match or it isn't.
It's much more pragmatic.
Personal.
Yeah.
And is that something you walk, let's say, a woman through? Like you'll have a conversation with her after date 1, after date 2, after date 3, and then you sort of.
God, it's so nerdy you can't even. I manage my women with their strategy and tactics for dating is so nerdy. If you don't like a spreadsheet, you really wouldn't want to hire me.
This is like Alex is just loving this.
I am so into this.
She
I'm like,
loves
talk to
her
me about the data.
And
yeah, it matters. It's accountability, right? If you can't see something in black and white, does it even exist? I don't know.
I love having that accountability, someone to talk to.
And I think you touched on it early on, right? If someone is in their 50s, they've gone through so much life experience. They're not here for more drama or nonsense or to find themselves back into a situation.
They're not taking the shit that they took 20 years ago. They're just not. Right? They're just not taking it.
And they hopefully know themselves enough to say, yeah, this is actually what I'm looking for. And part of me is like, damn, I wish we could all have that in our 20s. Like, maybe we would have no jobs in the divorce industry, but like that kind of
we still have jobs in the divorce industry.
Fair. But to have that level of
it should be taught in school. It should be.
Like it's like the no fucks given, like not no, but like less fucks given.
I want this like 3H approach taught in schools. Like that to me is, again, going back to this list and the data, like that to me seems the most simplistic but on the nose strategy for dating.
Kids date with one of them.
It works for everything. It works for your career. It works for buying a home. Totally. It works for getting a new outfit. Right?
Yeah.
It has to be practical. The price needs to be right. It has to feel good, and it needs to turn you on.
You need to be fired up. Yes. No, I love that.
I really do love that. That's amazing.
Laurie, she's brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
I give credit to the Handel method. That is a Handel method strategy. The 3 H's, it applies to so many things, but the 3H method of dating is you got to listen to the head, the heart, and the hoo-ha. Stop dividing the vote. Like stop dividing 100% by 3, where they have to compete, and just give each one its whole own 100%.
And would you say that is the biggest, don't is to ignore that, or just to date in one of those aspects? Like in your experience, what is the biggest sort of pitfall or mistake that women in their 50s make when they're back into the dating world?
I think the biggest mistake they make is not doing the preparation.
Right.
Yeah.
Just not doing the inner work, not getting the strategy and tactics, doing trial by error so they get exhausted.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the biggest mistake. And then, yes, supplementarily, yes, selling out
Right.
is also a pitfall.
Yeah.
But that's further down the line. That mistake is further.
Yeah, because it doesn't
And
really
hopefully-
matter your age. Let's be honest. We are all fed this narrative of if you're a single woman, you're this spinster or you're a cat lady. Like there's just such shitty options.
Do you know I found the origins of the term spinster recently?
Yeah.
And I think I sent it to you, didn't I? It was I don't know how many years ago, hundreds of years ago, when a woman who would weave and like weave clothes, yarn and whatever, became financially independent enough to be independent from a man. They called her a spinster.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's really
That's-
interesting.
Yeah.
I learned something new and I
There
said
you
something
go.
new.
This has been
like, wow.
amazing.
We should all,
Yeah.
that
should be the goal.
Everyone should want to be a spinster.
Independence. Yeah.
But not in this, right, in the independence framework.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Ditching that whole thing of like, you complete me and I'm just looking for my other half. And I hate it.
Yeah, or you're
all.
looking for your other half because you want it, not because you need it.
Yes.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a difference.
I don't think it's the other half. I think it's two wholes coming
Mhm.
together.
Yeah.
1 + 1 = 3 is a
Absolutely.
better
Oh, that's cute.
mathematical
Love it.
analogy
I like
than
that.
you're my other half,
Yeah.
which is very much was true 50 to 100 years ago because you
Yes,
needed
you
the
did.
sperm and the egg.
Yeah.
You needed the wage earner and the home
Yes.
care. Like it just was a totally different world
Yeah.
then.
Yes.
It's just a different world which requires different analogies.
Right.
Mhm, yeah. And we just need to catch up. So I love that you're doing this work. So if our listeners want to do some work with you, how do they find you?
LaurieGerber.com. LaurieGerber.com.
I love
For
when it's so
there you
simple.
will find free things, you will find inexpensive things, and you will find expensive things. You will
All
find
the things.
I love it.
All the things.
Lori,
Yes.
thank you so much
Thank
for taking the
you.
time to teach our listeners all of your beautiful wisdom. And we really, really do appreciate it. That was so fun.
So fun.
I love chatting
love
with
it.
you.
So
Come
fun.
back,
Let's
please.
together.
Yeah, I love it.
So fun.
See you in an hour.
Thanks so much,
Take
Lori.
care.
Be well.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver. Produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.